Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about an article that I wrote over on That Park Place because Jeff Shell is out again. That's right. It's again because he failed over at NBCUniversal because he had a little dalliance with an employee, which is a big no-no if you're a CEO. And then he followed that up with some inside information leaks to a, crazy gambler guy. We're going to get into the story. It's going to be mind-blowing, so stick around to the very end because you don't want to miss a moment. Here we go. So yeah, Jeff Shell is out again. The scandal-plagued Paramount exec is out at the worst possible time for Paramount. Paramount SkyDance is about to acquire, by the end of July, Warner Brothers Discovery. This is a big deal, and I had to write an article on it and make sure you guys all got the information with the right context, because a lot of the early articles coming out of the trades were a little less than complete. Let's just put it in those terms. So let's jump into the story. Hollywood's revolving door for scandal-scarred executives just spun again, and the timing couldn't be worse for the biggest media merger in years. Jeff Shell, who got booted as CEO of NBCUniversal in 2023 after an internal probe confirmed an inappropriate relationship with a CNBC anchor, somehow landed on his feet as president of the newly merged Paramount SkyDance. At least that's what happened in 2025. Now, David Ellison brought him in as a seasoned operator to help run the day-to-day while chasing scale, which, again, they are achieving. While a sage move to bring in the mastermind, perhaps that move was foolhardy in retrospect. Less than a year later, he's out. Why is this a big deal, culture? Well, because your culture is set from the top down, at least in corporate culture, and at least in corporations of this size. You also have specialized individuals that have a better, broader, bigger picture than anybody else that is, surrounding them. These people not only spot trends almost immediately and oftentimes before everybody else, but they also have a better guidance hand in leading, the company through troubling times, such as like an acquisition and merger. That's where this gets interesting. So Paramount SkyDance loses its presence weeks before the Warner Brothers Discovery vote. Now, the latest mess started back in March of 2026, so just a month ago this year, when a high-stakes gambler and self-described fixer, R.J. Cipriani, sued Shell for $150 million, which is absolutely wild. Now, the allegations, he was leaking confidential information to R.J. Cipriani or to somebody, and including news that Paramount Sundance was overpaying for Warner Brothers Discovery, which I think everybody could see from the outside, but they really desperately wanted it. Scale is a big deal, and it's always good to have it. Now, that led to early details of a massive UFC rights deal, plus reneging on a promised TV development opportunity in exchange for crisis PR work. Now, why would they need crisis PR work? Well, because sometimes things happen in corporations that you kind of just have to sweep under the rug, and you usually hire professionals to help you with that task, and oftentimes they're very politically motivated. Most of them are motivated by money, and some by both. So it would have been good to have some fixer work done when you are going to have a bunch of PR issues, and that's the problem with Jeff Shell. He has, of course, been under a lot of scrutiny since his untimely exit at NBCUniversal, and it seems that that character problem could have leaked over to his new venture with the Ellisons. Now, Shell denied it all, countersued for defamation and extortion, but Paramount SkyDance launched an internal investigation with outside counsel. An SEC probe followed. That level of noise in the C-suite is a predictor of foul weather indeed, and oftentimes leads somewhere, and that's a big, big problem. As you can see here, on April 8th of 2026, Paramount confirmed that Shell is transitioning, that's not a good word, from his role as president and board member to focus on his lawsuit, which means he's fired without, the very simple words. The trades issued harsher language, like fired, as I suggested, and out as president, as another way to describe it. Both of those things are true. The board called it standard procedure after a thorough review, which must have come up with a lot of stuff buried under a lot of carpets in a lot of places. That's not so good. Translation, he's gone from the top job for the second time in 3 years. Some reports say he might stick around briefly in an advisory capacity, but the writing is certainly on the wall. It's over. There is no going back, or more accurately, 2 character strikes at this level most likely means he's unhireable. And when I say that, I mean by anybody. Nobody wants to take a risk on somebody like this who will exchange their character for, well, almost any opportunity, even if it's really shady and it puts them on ethically unstable lines, which I guess is where this guy lives. And it's unfortunate because his solid guiding hand, which he has one, is now going to be lost. I doubt anybody else is going to go hire the guy, but we'll have to wait until after the lawsuit, at least this time around. Now, Ellison's new empire is starting to look shaky because of all these things, and this isn't just another C-suite exit, as I mentioned before. It's happening weeks before the Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders vote on April 23rd, which, if you're doing the math, is about 2 weeks away or less. And they're going to have to approve the 112 billion all cash takeover by Paramount SkyDance without somebody in place to lead that ship through some troubled seas. The deal, which could create a content behemoth very similar to Disney with HBO, Max, CNN, Warner Brothers Studios, DC, Paramount's library, CBS, and much, much more. It's targeting that Q3 2026 close, and I'm hearing still that it's on track for an end of July finish date. And Shell was supposed to help steer the integration and delivered the promised $6 billion in synergies. Of course, that's just code for heavy layoffs and cost cuts to justify the debt. In fact, it'll also help to manage some of that debt. And they'll consolidate it and then redistribute it, as I'm writing in another article that you'll see later this week. But these types of moves are deep water to navigate without experienced guidance. So any way you slice it, the depth of that experience is now gone. And that creates a very, very bad circumstance for Paramount indeed. And not just Paramount SkyDance, but for the broader Warner Brothers Discovery. Because even if this gets settled properly and the acquisition happens in that time frame, there's still going to be a lot more to sort out, and there won't be enough components there to do the sorting. You might have to bring in a gun for hire. Let's hope it's not Bob Iger, which I wouldn't even suggest. Well, maybe I just did, but I don't think that's likely. But his sudden exit really did create something of an operational risk, and there's no way to slice that in a kind way other than to say he was the guy with the NBCU scale of experience. He controlled a multimedia empire that had not only linear television, but also streaming. And he was leading it through a growth cycle when Comcast was relying on some free offers with Peacock, their initial streaming offering. There's a lot out there that you're going to need to follow if you're going to look at how they redistribute debt load. You're going to have to look at the redundancy cuts that are going to be made. You're going to have to look at a lot of things. And the antitrust scrutiny on this deal is already very high. You've got the DOJ itself, the state attorneys general, the EU regulators, all these people looking at this going, are we really wanting another Disney Fox deal to happen? Is this the kind of level of consolidation that we're going to be comfortable with going forward? Or are both of these organizations too far along in the process for it to even be stopped? Having another scandal of this scale isn't going to help to sell the whole stable new giant that they were pushing in Washington and on Wall Street. I think they're in for a bit of an issue. Of course, it's being written by me, so the irony is, well, rich and thick, and it stings a bit. This is the same town that loves to lecture everybody else about accountability and believe women, yet the executive class keeps recycling the same players through the same problems while the industry consolidates into fewer, more leveraged hands. And at the heart of this deal It's an extreme amount of leverage. Now, you can go on and look through the entirety of this article over on That Park Place and be on the lookout for more business-oriented articles over there by yours truly. What I hope you do is let me know your thoughts about this situation in the comments section below. Are you thinking this is going to go off without a hitch? Will this be a better representation of Hollywood going forward than what was going to be offered by, let's say, Netflix and Warner Brothers coming together? Do you think that maybe having CNN change hands isn't something that we should be talking about as well, or what that might look like down the road? And finally, do we expect a little bit of a sell-off from this new mega entity in Paramount, SkyDance, Warner Brothers Discovery? Do you think they're going to package something like Comcast did and sell it off for parts? Or do you think they're going to keep everything intact? Good questions all. If you have those thoughts, let me know them down below. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, we'll see you. Just, I don't know, maybe with a more skeptical eye on these types of deals.